Welcome to Court and Soul. Welcome to Court and Soul. I have Christa Eniojukan. Did I say that right?
That's right. Yep.
Head coach of the women's basketball at York University. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm so excited for you to be on for many reasons. One is selfishly, as like a mom of young kids, you are definitely someone that I've looked up to, probably without you knowing, for years now, just as like, wow, like she's coaching, she's a mother, and now her kids are also players. And unfortunately, that's not really the norm in the game. You just see a lot of people that it's tough just being a mom in general. And to add a layer, your kids are players. So I really want to dive into that, and I have a lot of questions for you. And I think this is really beneficial for girls coming up that want to be coaches, but might be afraid of that balance between family and work because it's evenings and weekends.
Absolutely. And I think, you've done an amazing job of providing the space for women to have a voice like myself, which I think is important. I was just at the Women and Girls Leadership Conference at York last week. And I don't know if it was intentional, I don't think so, but every speaker spoke about this in some capacity, which was like the first time that I've been at a conference. And I was like, I felt so seen. And so myself and the head coach of the women's volleyball team kept looking at each other like, oh my goodness, like everybody's sending the same type of message. So I do feel there is, this is an important time. And it's not that females don't want to be coaching, but how do we go about doing this appropriately?
1,000%. And I do believe it's a struggle because I remember when I had my first, and I was just lucky because I had AJ, and even though he's a male and he's not a parent, he was very like understanding and said, hey, do what you can. But that was also different because I was in a part-time role, right? There's other support. But when you're in a full-time space like you've been, and now that I've just coming into, there's other difficulties that you kind of got to think of and scheduling and bless your soul. So I do want to go into the first question. So I want you to take us back to the beginning. When you first stepped into coaching as a mom, how old were your kids and what was that season of life really like for you?
Okay. So oddly enough, I've never stopped coaching even when I had children. So I was the coach with the baby on the sideline, with my husband, with parents in the stands, with grandparents, with whoever, honestly. Both my children pretty much were raised in a gym from very, very young. So I did have to plan appropriately, right? And thank goodness for the village that supported me and my madness, because I was just determined. So I would say the number one key is have a partner that actually wants to support you and understands the crazy that comes into coaching. And that's ungendered, but it's just for a female in our space. We know that there's certain challenges, especially when they're younger, like breastfeeding in the between games and so on and so forth. And how do we accommodate these situations? Like my daughter Zaria, bless her soul, but she refused to take a bottle the entire time. So I had my son who I was able to give to other people, give a bottle. And then when I got back, I would breastfeed, whatever the case may be. My daughter said, no, I'm not doing that. She would not. We tried forever. And so she came everywhere. And so I really, leaned on those supports, and I also had hard conversations. I'll specifically talk about Ontario basketball as a story for you, because I was an assistant coach at Jody Graham. Also somebody who she didn't have her children at the time, but was very open and supportive of if a baby had to be at practice, she understood that, and she knew how to work with me on those situations. So that was really great. But then I moved into a head coaching role a couple summers after working with Jody. And so I went to Ontario basketball and I said, I want to have a full-time babysitter throughout the summer. And the reason being is because my husband was working. He couldn't take the entire summer off just to help me coach Ontario basketball. And at this time, provincial team ran all summer. We went from, I guess, April all the way to August.
Wow.
So
how old was your child at that time?
So I had both my kids were born at that time. And if I'm thinking of pictures, maybe they were 5 and 3.
That's tough. I have a
4 and
5-year-old
2,
right now.
around that, like young, right?
Maybe.
Toddlers, little. And so I went to them and we collaborated with an idea and hit up Seneca College and approached their early years center, and they hired, we got somebody to do the internship with us through Ontario Basketball.
That's
And so finding creative ways like that. But so she traveled with us. She traveled to Chicago. She traveled to nationals. She was with us all over the place. And, you know, but that allowed me to show up and be present for my team. I didn't feel like I had to have them, you know, with me, which I see some women doing, and they do what they have to do, them in the stands, you know, and so forth. But I felt like I could be present for the players because there was somebody that was taking care of them. And I didn't have the guilt of being like, oh, it's a parent that's here to watch their child. It was somebody who was hired. So that was a really important, I would say, part in my journey in learning to advocate for myself.
Yeah, I think everything you said is very relevant, probably for a lot of people that don't advocate for themselves or don't even have those resources. Or maybe, you know, Ontario basketball was very accommodating, but not everyone or everywhere is, right? You don't know, financially or whatever the case may be. I know at Humber, they actually did a good job. I think they, if we had players that had kids, they would
Yes.
have somebody that would run around in the Varsity Academic Center. And I think that's important. I think one, even if the children are around, I think it's important, especially because we coach the women's game, for other girls to see those possibilities.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't see any of that growing up. I barely had female coaches, if that was the case.
Yeah. Same. I never had.
So now it makes a difference in girls' lives. So we know representation matters. My next question is, what were your biggest challenges navigating coaching and motherhood? I know you spoke a little bit of just finding people to watch your kids, but we know there's a lot more to that.
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to when I was a teacher first for 15 years
Okay, all of
in,
us came from teaching, eh?
yeah, so I was teaching and coaching and had young children. Don't necessarily recommend what I was doing because it was a little crazy. Like I was teaching, coaching at the school, coaching provincial team, running after school to go to a prep program. My children were there playing at the ability center while I was coaching. Like it was a little bit madness. It was a little crazy,
Yeah.
but just, you know, finding the balance that was appropriate for me. Like I had to push the limit and say, okay, that's too much. How do I go about this appropriately as well? And discussing and being organized with my husband on how to get the right supports to make it manageable, with also not burning him out as well, recognizing and being respectful that he has a full-time job. So I don't know if that fully answers your question.
No, I think that's important. I think I asked for biggest challenges. I think time management is probably because I was doing
Yeah.
something similar to you. Like even though I moved out to Cambridge, my full-time job in Toronto, I was still commuting.
Mhm.
Try to go twice a week to Waterloo when I was with them, and it felt too much. I was burnt out. It was, like you said, do not recommend it. And I just feel like it's tough on your kids. Like they see you and they're like extra needy, and you're like, oh my God, I don't want anything to take away from you.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
So time management, and then like finding what's best for you, because okay, so I was doing all that, and then I I got burnt out and I went on a leave. When I was on the leave, Ontario Tech approached me about being the inaugural head coach there.
I remember that.
So that was a big decision. Do I leave teaching? What do I do? This is my passion. This is my dream job, to coach basketball full time. However, it's interesting. And sometimes you have to block out the naysayers, you know, because everybody always told me that I couldn't coach university and be a mom. Like that was very much, a lot of people had mentioned that to me. And then I did it and I was like, this is way easier than what I was doing. So like, I had 3 full-time jobs before. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was trying to juggle everything. And now I'm at a university institution coaching basketball. I'm not trying to do teaching plans and trying to change the futures of these middle schoolers and coaching basketball. Like, I get to focus on my team and the program needs and what I'm doing to build our program. So I think, people are afraid a little bit of the unknown. And so sometimes you have to trust your judgment about what you feel is best. And so it almost was like, why didn't I try to do this earlier in some capacities, to be honest? Because I was juggling too many things. And now I get to focus more on basketball and building our program.
Honestly, you're speaking to my soul right now. This is fantastic. Did you ever, and this is gonna a little bit more reflection on what you've already been talking about, but did you ever feel pushed away, like directly or indirectly? Because you were even saying, some people are telling you like, you can't be doing that because you were a mother in this specific profession.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if it was because of motherhood. There's a lot of things I think that push females away, female of color, female in a different space. There's a lot of layers to that question. Yeah, I have. I'm trying to figure out exactly.
Yeah, it's a deeper question because there's probably so
why.
many.
When I moved from into Durham region and coached in Durham region, there weren't even a lot of females coaching, even in the rep spaces. So I think that was new and different for a lot of people. Some people were definitely more welcoming than others, especially like my younger 20-something-year-old self was pretty boisterous, pretty outspoken, probably ruffled some feathers of some people. So I wasn't afraid to take up space, I think. And that whether that was from officials or other coaches and so forth, people didn't really love that. So yeah, I definitely didn't always feel welcomed in some spaces, but then you'd be coaching and then there were certain spaces that really, really did welcome you and support you, right? Like I can remember the first time I ever went to a Center of Performance, CP. I was so young, just out of university. And, Mike McKay, Steffu Bernard, Greg, those guys welcomed me and encouraged me. And, I was petrified, but they gave me the space to learn and grow. And so there were, some amazing people and supporters that did help. And I think there was more of them than the people that made me feel like I didn't belong.
Important. You need to overflow on one side versus the other.
Yeah.
So now that your kids play sport and you've built the career in it, how has that now shifted your philosophy as a coach, if at all?
Oh, shifted my philosophy. That's a great question.
Thanks. Do you think of yourself as a coach?
Yeah. It definitely has. I definitely give a lot more grace to parents navigating this and families and, even just the feeling that you have when your child is playing. Like it's so hard. And people are like, oh, just be a mom. Yeah, right. Like that's impossible. Like I'm just gonna shut off all of my knowledge of coaching and just all of a sudden just be a mom. But like I try my best. Like I really have to like speak to myself on the sidelines and be professional. And sometimes I have, mishaps where I'm like screaming at the official in a game. I'm like, okay, no, like you need to dial this back appropriately. But it's not easy. I think the biggest lesson would be to understand that we're all human and that, parents love their children and want the best of their children. And so sometimes that can come off in the wrong way. And I've definitely been, on the bad side of that. Like I'm not perfect either. But just understanding and having more empathy for children and how they learn and grow. My 2 children are very different in terms of how they approach their day, even like how they are as individuals, how they show up, how they compete, how they lead, like they're very different. And so learning and understanding that there's not just one way for kids to be successful, and just having more empathy to my own players with that journey and how to help them through that. And understanding like their weaknesses maybe weaknesses, but how do we grow and work with them, because they all have amazing strengths. So just, it's, the teaching you learn about children, obviously. So I really kudos, I give a lot of credit to my teaching past and understanding children and working with children. But then when you have your own children, there's nothing like how you can learn really what they're like. So just carrying that over to how I meet my own players on a daily basis.
What a great tool to have, eh? And a lot of people won't be able to experience that or understand it.
Mm-hmm.
You've really lived it. I know with my own kids, and even with like, I'm just thinking of like as when I was a teacher and when I'd be teaching and like the frustrations I would have with some children. But then I'm like, I have that now with my kids. I'm like, oh man, I hope a teacher is
Yes, it's a little more empathetic
than I was, a little more caring and graceful. So those were great points. And actually, this is my last question. You've answered everything so well. And I really think that more women and mothers need to kind of speak up and talk about this to get more people involved and not get them feeling like I can't do this, and finding resolutions and different ways to keep more women in the game. If Megan didn't tap me on the shoulder for this year, I don't even know if I would have tried to go back, just because it's so tough. And once you get that time off and, even now me trying to figure out scheduling and overnights and planning, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so much managing. I need to know where people are at all times and what we're doing and where they're going. So what would you say to the next generation of women who want to coach, but feel like having kids might close doors for them?
Yeah, I think like you've done an amazing job of it. You may not feel like it, but just, and I think that's the other thing is like we're so hard on ourselves.
Mm.
So, just doing what you can. What is your capacity? Because that's the other thing. And as people, as humans, we judge so many people on what this person's doing. Oh my gosh, they're doing so much. Oh, that person's doing so little, and so forth. But everyone's capacity is different. And
We
so
watch too much.
how you can show up and what you can give is different. So like your situation of, back when you could only give part-time, that's all you could give, but you were still there and present and showing up. And so you're still learning, you're still growing, you're still giving, and so forth. So being able to find what's appropriate for you for the season that you're in. And so, as your children get a little bit older, then maybe you feel like, okay, now maybe I can give a little bit more. And now you feel confident that now you can now go into a full-time role. But like any job, you have to do the work, right? And so being able to put in a little bit with a child is important. Try not to just completely remove yourself, because I think that's when it's like, that's not realistic at all, right? But if you can, through the baby stage, the toddler stage, whatever, which you find to a lot, maybe you can do one night a week and you're still involved in basketball, and so on and so forth.
And I think you do a great job, sorry to interrupt, of empowering women within your own staff. I've really admired your staff through the years and the people you put on, and the vibe and energy is great. And I know you're a great mentor for those girls, because I know you have some younger ones. Once they get into that motherhood stage, to be able to look up to you.
Yeah, like honestly, as we said at the beginning, nobody really did it for us. And honestly, they're awesome women. Like, I'm not just hiring them because they're women. They're really good at their job. And so sometimes I think, that can get overlooked, and we just need to look at what they can bring to the table. And these women are amazing women. I honestly, I'd put them up against any other male for these roles. So I'm not just giving them the job because they're females. And, life, we have to help them navigate this life. And, Chanel, we were 4 years together, was absolutely amazing. But even this year when she was on mat leave, she was still in the background helping out our team.
She's awesome. She's my sister for Hoop Queens.
She's amazing, right? And that's like, and that also, that fueled her. It made her excited because, she doesn't just want to be at home and forgetting what her passion and her love is. So she would love to jump on board and talk to Jalika about our scouts and how she can support, so just staying involved in whatever capacity I think is important. And then as leaders in these spaces, we also need to be open to that. And how do we collaborate with others?
Yes, because people can feel, and this goes back to my question from before of, ever feeling pushed away. And imagine Chanel went off and then all of a sudden you guys weren't as receptive or as open,
Yeah,
that could be the moment where she's just like, maybe I'm not supposed to be in this space anymore.
exactly. Exactly.
Also, I know I said last question, but
No worries.
how cool, like, do your kids ever say anything to you about like how cool it is that their mom's a
No,
coach?
I
Nothing.
mean,
Nothing.
my kids are hilarious. They like, no, they do not give me my flowers at all. They roast me all the time. I remind them, I'm like, I joke all the time. I'm like, I'm the coolest woman you know. Like, stop it. Because everything's embarrassing. They're teenagers. So even me doing this podcast and mentioning them is embarrassing. Anything, even when I post on social, it's embarrassing. And I'm like, well, get over it.
Hey, Mother's Day is Sunday. Kids, get it together. Figure it out for your mom. No, they definitely do. They have to. Like, even if they're friends, they have to be like, "Yo, your mom's a basketball."
Maybe behind closed doors. They'll never get, not in person.
I hope they physically give you flowers on Sunday. Christa, thank you so much for coming on. I don't know if there's anything else you want to close off, but this was very beneficial. And I know anytime I post something, especially with this stuff, people are always messaging me and commenting. So I'll pass on anything that,
Yeah. No, I just want to give you your flowers. Like, I would say this is an important space that is needed and very, very unique, right? So kudos to you for recognizing that, taking all of your strengths and so forth and bringing it all together. I think it's a wonderful thing. So just keep it up.
You're awesome. I appreciate you, and see you on the court.
See you on the sidelines officially.
I'm so excited for that.